The authorities in Norway have threatened to remove our legal registration because of our scriptural beliefs and practices regarding disfellowshipping. In the future, various governments will challenge our freedom of worship. They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs.
Howdy, heretics! This is a wonderful day in Norway, and I just discovered that the Jehovah Witnesses claim in a government document that they will stop shunning in Norway. There will be no more disfellowshipping in Norway according to this government. So the question is, are they lying? Because there's no announcement on the JW broadcasting. We remember what Brother Antony Morris said about this.
They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs, but we're certainly not going to do that.
According to Brother Morris, they will never stop the scriptural discipline of disfellowshipping. Well, first of all, shunning a child is not scriptural. You will never find any place in the Bible. My goats are hungry. You will never find any place in the Bible. Feel my goats, they're prettier than me. They're waiting for food from the Good Shepherd, and that's me. But back to the point now. In Norway, children's rights are protected, and the Norwegian government will not give government funding to an organization that discipline children with shunning. And look at this, what Brother Lush said here.
Do not walk with, stand with, or sit with those who do what is bad. And we could add to that, and to not text or email others who do not think wholesome thoughts.
Gerrit Lush says that a child will be shunned because he thinks the wrong thoughts. Well, just as a child have freedom of speech in Norway, it also have freedom of thought. And no governing body member can say that a child should be punished. This is also a child that not necessarily have been baptized. I like to have the goats in the picture because they're prettier than me, but I thought we can do a voiceover with the actual Norwegian legislation that Watchtower is violating. Because paragraph 6 says the following. If a religious or philosophical society or individuals acting on behalf of this society commit violence or coercion, make threats, violate children's rights, violate statutory prohibitions against discrimination, or otherwise seriously violate the rights and freedoms of others, the community may be denied grants or grants might be truncated. Grants may also be refused or truncated if the community encourages or supports violation mentioned in this subsection. So the Norwegian legislation claims that you cannot receive government funding if you violate someone else's human rights, like the right to vote or the right to think your own thoughts. And especially is this important when it comes to children. Children should very much be allowed to think their own thoughts. Imagine if I, as a Norwegian, believe in slavery. I could say that if slavery, it was good enough for the Apostle Paul, and I believe the Bible is inspired by God, well then I'm okay with slavery. Yes, I'm allowed to think that. I'm allowed to say that, I'm allowed to preach that, but I'm not allowed to do that. And you say, well, that's just common sense. Well, it's common sense now, thanks to human rights activists. And 100 years from now, if you tell them that an American corporation could say to Norwegian parents that they should be shunning children in the congregation if those children think the wrong thoughts, that's almost worse than slavery. It's mental slavery. But I like when they talk about here that we were the only one that resisted the Nazis. That's fun, because another thing that the Norwegian government have been annoyed with is the fact that you have a goat-like personality. I have to give up this project.
Jehovah's Witnesses have been actively preaching the good news in Norway for more than 120 years. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses suffered for their faith under the Nazi occupation of Norway during World War II, commenting on how Jehovah's Witnesses were the only religious group who stood firm against the Nazis.
They say that we were the only one that fought against the Nazis. Well, the Nazis were not Germans. The Nazis was a German political party, one of many political parties. So how is it possible that you're politically neutral, but you resisted the German Nazis, which would be a political party? And I think they are just lying and saying that to get sympathy. Because in fact, look at this picture. This is a picture from a Jehovah Witness convention in Norway during the war. Everyone is showing their faces. No one was afraid of showing their face, so obviously they were not persecuted. But Jehovah Witnesses has always been a little bit politically active behind the members' back, like when they were member of the UN. And now they can't keep those things secret. So you notice they try to make it that this is something that happened now, most recently. Listen to this.
With the assistance of the newly established Freedom of Worship Office, we're pursuing legal remedies.
To assist Jehovah's people, we have recently established the Freedom of Worship Office at the Central Europe branch.
Most recently, we have to start this. Most recently, we have to start lobbying. That is actually not true. Depends on how you define most recently. So the European Association of Jehovah Witnesses, that's their lobby organization, it was founded the 22nd of February 2001. That is not most recently. And before that, it was called the European Association of Jehovah's Witnesses for the Protection of Religious Freedom. That was founded 27 of January 1990 in Milan, Italy. So if you're going to be a Jehovah Witness or human rights activist and work against evil corporations like Watchtower, just listen for what they don't say. When they don't say the date, they're hiding something. Or when they say 2 or 3, it's probably a bigger number that they don't want to mention. I just wanted to show you this. This is the Jehovah Witness Religious Freedom Report in Germany 2022. It's a statement by the European Association of Jehovah Witnesses. So this is the lobbying that work for religious freedom, and I'm okay with that, and it's public information. You can find it online and you can go through it as you should. But when we come to down here, the conclusion, religious freedom objectives. So we're talking about human rights. Jehovah Witnesses respectfully request the government of Germany to, and now it's kind of sad. First thing they say, stop the German independent inquiry into child sexual abuse.
We've always been known as good citizens. In fact, a public report stated that Jehovah's Witnesses are careful to obey the laws of the land.
Why would it be a case of religious freedom to hinder the police in investigating? And then we see the next one here. It says, enforce media standards prohibiting libel and slander, especially as they relate to religious intolerance. Well, Jehovah Witnesses will often persecute former members and refer to them as mentally diseased, decaying corpse, stuff like that. But in Germany you have strong hate speech legislation. Due to their history, they don't want to do the same mistake twice. I'm not a lawyer, but they're kind of famous for having strict laws. So what Watchtower here asking for, enforce media standards, basically that it should be illegal to criticize Jehovah Witnesses, while Jehovah Witnesses would be allowed to criticize, for instance, former members like myself. This is my favorite. It says, uphold the freedom and of conscience of Jehovah Witness school children by offering alternative to assignments that violate their religious principles. Well, I used to be a Jehovah Witness school child, and when they say their religious principles, they're talking about the crazy rules that the governing body come up with, and my parents would give me a beating if I didn't obey. But at least this is something we both can agree with. Don't you think so, Gerrit Lush? It says that children should have freedom of conscience, Children should be allowed to think their own thought. Don't you agree with that, Garrett?
Do not walk with, stand with, or sit with those who do what is bad, and to not text or email others who do not think wholesome thoughts.
All of this is public information that you can find yourself, but maybe you would like to send them an email. Then you can do this at this email here. Jehovah Witnesses lost the government funding due to paragraph 6, that they violate the rights of children, they violate the rights of grown-ups, and Antony Morris say, we will never change this. However, look at this. This is the application for government funding for the year 2022. The application is this year, 2023. And in the bottom it says, you have to check a little box where it says that we are aware of the conditions for this grant and we promise that we will follow the conditions next year. We will in the future follow these conditions. And the conditions they lost government funding for was, among other things, shunning. So, technically, New Light, technically they promised that they will not do shunning in Norway anymore. However, sadly, I think this is a case of Watchtower lying to the government in order to achieve circa $1.5 million in government funding. So, what's worse? Shunning a child? Well, obviously that's worse. Shunning a child is nowhere in the Bible. There's no place where the Apostle Paul say you should shun a child. Only grown-ups were shunned in the Bible. But anyway, what's worst? Lying to the Jehovah Witnesses to say that we will never stop shunning? Or lying to the government and say that we are going to do that? Or lying to the government in order to obtain $1.5 million? Because if I would tell the government that I have 1 million goats in order to receive more money from the government, I would go to jail. So if you're a Jehovah Witness watching this, why is it okay for Watchtower to check the box that we are aware of the legislation and we will follow it? So this is interesting. Are they lying to their members or are they committing fraud? Giving incorrect answer on a government form in order to obtain money. Shame on you. This is my paradise. It takes some time to film out here, but it's worth it. And it's worth leaving a cult because there is a paradise right here, right now. And I hope you find it, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you support me because my goal is to be a children's rights activist. So thanks to my patrons and see you in paradise.